The valley sleeps beneath a blanket of ash. No wind.
From the silence they emerged, 7 shadows bound by blood and fire. Each step echoed the weight of survival.
And then it came way, not seen, but felt. A shadow vast. From the ash, it reached and vast, clawed, merciless. In that single strip, the silence shattered. From the ash, it struck clean, a force vast and merciless. One rose above the rest, his spear lifted not for victory, but for sacrifice. And there it stood, vast, ancient, unyielding. 6 remained.
And so they rose fart. Fire against shadow, 6 against the storm, defiance against the end.
When the fire dimmed, silence remained. Yet in that silence,
The fire faded, yet the story endured, Kath. Etched in stone, carried by time, the first legend.
They marked their flesh with ash and fire, chanting as one, men becoming legend before the storm.
They tamed fire, hunted the wild, carved stone for shelter, each act a step toward legend.
Through ancient eyes, men were sparks in the void, fragile flames trembling before eternal shadow.
Fire met shadow, spear met claw, humph. In that frozen heartbeat, survival became legend. Together they rose, fire against shadow. The beast faltered, proof that unity can shake eternity. Together they struck, fire against shadow. The beast fell twirk, and in that fall, legend was born.
The storm was over. In silence and sunrise, humanity stowed keen. Fragile sparks now forged into legend.
They raised his spear to the dawn, not in sorrow, but in memory, the first monument of man.
They returned not as hunters, but as legend. Their fire became memory. Their memory became eternity.
Upon stone they carved their struggle, so fire would remember, and shadows would never rise unspoken.
In dawn's light they stood, no longer hunters but legend, sparks eternal against the endless sky.
in the age of shadows, when courage was the only light, 5 hunters stood against the darkness.
Thus began the first legend of man. Fire, Brer, against shadow.
Legends do not end. They drift like embers, waiting.
Their story crossed valleys and mountains, carried by stone and flame, a legend echoing beyond time itself. And in the heavens they remained, hunters of fire, shadows of stone, a legend written among the stars.
Thus began the first legend of man, Anadio. Fire remembered, shadow defeated.
Even the stars remember their fire, their struggle.
Silence followed.
Though the beast had fallen, its shadow lingered, a whisper etched into the silence of the night.
In fire they remembered, casting their grief to the flames and their hope to the stars.
And when dawn returned, they stood in silence, for in the light they found the strength to begin again.
Together they swore that the fire would not fade, and the legend would live beyond their days.
Upon the stone they carved horned, fire and shadow, spear and flame team, so the legend would never fade.
By fire and stone he spoke patient, of hunters and shadows, of sacrifice and flame lead.
His voice became an echo, not bound to stone or fire, but carried into the silence of the world.
And in the stars they saw them foamed, hunters eternal, their spears blazing as constellations in the night.
Beneath the stars they sang, their voices rising.
In flame and starlight they appeared, silent guardians, their spirits watching from beyond the veil. In silence they waited, as the earth itself seemed to breathe, one heartbeat echoing through the night. The earth stirred, the stars replied, and in their silence, with the dawn they returned, carrying silence, fire, and memory, their steps guided by the rising sun. And so the village breathed again, in fire, in work, in silence, life reborn beneath the morning sun.
Together they feasted pride, not in forgetfulness, but in remembrance, their unity forged in fire and story.
They danced in firelight fray, each step a heartbeat, each spark a spirit.
One spark rose higher than the rest, and in its flight, their story was given to the stars.
And the sky replied, with fire across the stars, sealing their story in the vault of eternity.
And in silence they stood, for the story was no longer theirs, but the cosmos's to carry.
And with the dawn they rose, their silence broken by light.
They vowed in silence to walk as story bearers.
Together they stepped, their footprints pressed into dawn, the first path of a living legend. Into the earth they placed it, a seed of memory, to grow as legend beneath the sun. They saw the moon, its craters eternal, mirroring their steps, as if the heavens carried their story in stone. Above and below, circle met circle, earth and sky aligned, sealing their story in the fabric of the cosmos.
Their voices rose in unison, a chant of earth.
In silence it came, a heartbeat vast and unseen, the cosmos breathing with them as one. They saw beyond the night, rivers of light and ages unborn, their legend echoing through eternity. They opened their eyes, and the stars they had seen now burned within, a light carried into the waking world. From ashes it rose, the sacred flame reborn, carrying their legend into the light of a new day. Upon the river they saw it, fire and stars as one, the heavens and earth reflected in a single mirror. Upon the stone they carved it, each strike a thunder, their story etched into the earth forever.
Then the wind came, a whisper from the sky, carrying their story into the breath of the world.
They walked toward the horizon, each step a mark of memory, each shadow a promise carried into the dawn. Beneath the mountain they walked, its shadow vast upon them, a silent trial carved into the path of their legend. In silence they vowed Kongyent, no words, only hearts bound beneath the mountain's eternal shadow.
From the heavens it came, a rain of stars.
They carried the flame within a vessel, a light unbroken, their legend born into the endless night.
At the horizon they stood Foom, where sun and stars became one, their journey poised upon eternity's edge. And so they stood at the horizon, where sun and stars became one, and their story was written into eternity.